So, welcome to our last Success Stories event of 2024, a popular work on climate community event series. We are so excited to have you all today here. So, my name is Neha Prakash, and I'm joining from Dubai. Me and my colleagues from the events team are part of a larger volunteer team of the Work on Climate organization. So, whose mission is to support people to transition to climate jobs or make their current job a climate job. Work on Climate does that by connecting people through a global Slack community with over 30,000 members, offers free climate expert hours, and produces a series of events focused on climate workforce. So if you're interested in joining us, please visit our website for more details. You'll see it on the chat box and we will share all the details with you. So please know that we will share the resources, presentation deck, and the recording of this event to all the attendees. Okay, so going ahead next, our event today will follow the following format. So each of four speakers will introduce themselves. So we have four speakers today. And basically, so they are, so the number one is Sherry DeWay, then Catalina Valenzuela, Sobia Rehan, and Bodine Van Styro. So you'll get to know them a lot over here in this event. So how it's going to go is each of four speakers will introduce themselves and discuss their climate career transition, including their obstacles they have encountered and the strategies they use to overcome them. Additionally, they will share resources they found useful in their climate path. We will also share them in the chat and email them after the event. So don't worry about that. Each speaker have 7 minutes for their presentation, and after each speaker, we will share we will select one or two questions from the audience. So please use the raise hand feature, and I will call your name to ask the questions directly. Then in about 50 minutes, we will break into 5 rooms and let our attendees join any speaker's room they choose. And you'll be able to move from room to room at your own pace. The room will be open for around 20 to 25 minutes to ask whatever additional questions you wish to and discuss the topics. In the end of the event, we will welcome you back to share any insights from the room conversations that you had. And this live event will wrap up in around 90 minutes. So our speakers today were selected from the Call for Speakers campaign, and the form is open for anybody who wants to share their climate journey at this quarterly event series. Our speakers represent different stages of their careers, and they also their transition happen at different times. So it will be a great experience to see different perspective on how the transition successfully happened to them. So let me introduce our first speaker, who is Sherry DeWay, who is joining us from New York City, and she's a sustainability strategist, community advocate, and energy efficiency expert dedicated to expanding access to the green energy and decarbonization transition. So I will hand it over to her.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening from wherever you're joining. My name is Sherry Reed. I am so honored and excited to be here today. So thank you, Amanda, Hannah, and the whole Work on Climate team. So today we're going to talk a little bit about my journey, as well as some of the barriers that I encountered on my journey, and then share some of the resources that helped me in my journey in climate. So I first started in this industry in about 2020, so about 4 years ago. At that time, I was actually working in a family business, which is a hair salon in Brooklyn. I was the manager of the salon, and I really enjoyed helping clients. Most of the clients we served at that time were high-end business women working in C-suite level positions at their respective companies. We did a lot of brand deals, events. We worked at the Emmys. We did TV shows that were featured on VH1, Bravo, WeTV. It was incredibly fun, incredibly glamorous. But in 2020, as you all recall, I'm sure, New York City went through a series of lockdowns due to the pandemic. And that time gave me a lot of downtime to reflect on my journey, where I was in life, and if I was feeling fulfilled. And when I was honest with myself, I realized that though I was really excited to work in the industry in hospitality and beauty, it wasn't aligned with how I saw myself and my skill set. I reflected a lot on the things that I enjoyed doing as a kid. And that include like volunteering with the Department of Environmental Protection at their eel project. That involved starting recycling campaigns at my church and local community. That involved connecting with people and exploring business. But once again, as the pandemic gave me a lot of time to reflect and think on those things, that's when I realized how far away I had gotten from that original purpose. So I began thinking about how I could now combine those areas of interest with where I was currently in my career. And that's when I realized that the field of sustainability was really, really promising. So I was excited to jump right in. I let the salon know that I was going to be exploring other opportunities, and I just started straight away applying to jobs. Unfortunately, a lot of recruiters did not see the value in a salon manager. It wasn't immediately apparent what a salon manager could contribute to solving the climate crisis. It was at that point that I realized I had a lot of internalized limiting beliefs where my value was correlated with my income or my position title. And I realized that I wasn't fulfilled and I was taking these rejections from recruiters. If I received a rejection at all, I was taking it very, very personally. And that's when I realized that looking into transitioning into a new field or starting in a new field is a lot deeper than just putting out an application. For me, it was a lot of mindset transformation that I needed to undergo in order to feel confident in the skills that I was putting out there. So for me, that was a huge delving into the spiritual practices that I grew up in. I began praying and meditating. I wanted to understand what my gifts were and how they were uniquely positioned to contribute to combating the climate crisis. I thought a lot about the gifts that I had that had come up in various aspects of my life. So, whether that was working at the salon or working at other positions before that, I started realizing that there were a lot of common themes that were coming up throughout my career journey. For some of those, like people skills came up a lot, project management skills came up a lot. I'm an oldest daughter, so if any of you out there can identify with that very unique position in the family, you understand that that comes with a lot of, I'll say, socialized management roles, right? And I began now feeling more confident in the gifts that I had. And so now I could begin to use those gifts to attract a role in climate that would be best suited for me. So now this is where I started researching a little bit more closely the roles that would be a good fit for me. I took a strengths builder test. I wanted to understand because I wanted to understand my skills. And I also looked at the skills that were most in demand in the green economy. So one of the resources that I have linked that we'll get there is like the LinkedIn Green Skills Report. I started looking at those skills now and comparing it with the skills that I had naturally and being able to understand how the skills I had naturally translated across industries is what helped me um, articulate my value to recruiters. And it also gave me a roadmap for understanding the skills that I needed in order to become a more attractive candidate. So that's where you see this quote up here on the screen. Investing in your own growth guarantees a continual return. Invest in your mind, body, and spirit. You are your greatest asset. So before I started in this industry, and I still do have a little bit of this mindset now where I feel like the sustainability and climate community really needs a communal focus. I think that over the years, especially as like capitalism has grown, we've really taken on this individualistic mindset where we're not thinking about ourselves in relation to community anymore. But what I'm also realizing is that if my cup is not full, if I am not confident in my skill set, I cannot contribute to the whole in a meaningful way. So by investing in your mind, your mental health, your emotional health, your self-concept, your body, your physical health, and your spirit, your spiritual health, your emotional health, this is what is going to enable you to bring your whole self to this enormous group project and also guarantee security for yourself and your loved ones. So on the next slide, you'll see some of the barriers that I overcame, and I'm really happy to elaborate a little bit more on these. So the first barrier that I want to address here specifically is that I did not have a college degree or relevant professional experience when I started in this industry. So in 2020, I had taken a break from college, a very long break since 2013. And all of my contacts up at that point had been in hospitality and beauty, right? So making this big leap in the middle of a global shutdown was really, really challenging. I didn't know where to start. I'm in my home, so it's not like I can actually go out and network and meet people. And I didn't have any professional experience, as I said, that would easily translate to a recruiter or an employer for them to understand how my skills as a salon manager would translate to those that are needed for the climate crisis. So the next one is that, again, I had no relevant professional experience there, right? I'd been working in a salon in these cases, so I didn't have the experience as it would translate. But some of the ways that I was able to accomplish that was really focusing on my skills. If you can go back to the previous slide, please. Thank you. Uh, Doubling up or down on your in-demand skills. So to elaborate on that, when I say double down, that's what I mean about understanding what your natural strengths are, because the climate crisis is really wide and it hits across a bunch of different sectors. We need a very, very diverse group of people in order to solve this. I think or rather combat it, because I don't know if it can be solved per se, but I will say understanding what your strengths are is really, really important for figuring out what your role is going to be, regardless of the sector. So the example that I really like to give is when I was working in the salon, one of my main roles was really understanding what my clients needed, making sure that their needs were translated to the stylist or the assistant, right? And then making sure that they had an outcome that they were happy with and were willing to pay for. That, when you translate it over to, clean energy, sustainability, that skill that was known as customer service is now known as stakeholder engagement. So understanding where your natural strengths are allows you to be able to translate those into skills that are transferable and in demand in the industry that you want to move into. And when I say double up on in-demand skills, that means that you need to add new skill sets to your arsenal. So one way that this helped for me, after I began understanding which industries or which sectors of sustainability I was really interested in, I picked the building decarbonization space. It felt like, because that was one of the largest sectors and I'm really interested in building science, that felt like a natural pathway for me. I wanted to understand more about that because, again, I did not have that background. So I took a Building Performance Institute certified course. I am a multifamily building analyst, and that certification helped me land the subsequent roles, including the one that I have now, working as a clean energy project manager at New York State's Energy and Research Development Authority. So to reiterate that, you want to double down on your existing skill set and understand how it translates to those that are in need in the industry. And you want to increase your skill set to skills that are in demand and in need. I would say that you want to identify the skills that are in need that also align with your personal interests. Because I also took a GRI reporting certification. GRI is one of the leading reporting indexes right now to understand sustainability reporting. I thought because sustainability reporting is a really, really quickly growing aspect of ESG, that it would make sense for me to go into that area in order to guarantee financial security. However, I was not interested in that. Taking the course and $1,000 later, I realized that that area was not for me. So even though I increased my skill set, I also was able to get more clarity on the path that really was going to be the most aligned for me with my vision, with my skill set, with my interests. And then the second thing that I did in order to combat the issue of not having a network or colleagues in this industry was I started working on my personal brand. My personal brand, I'll say that your brand is who you are when you're not in the room, or who people say you are when you're not in the room. So I think a lot of people online, when they talk about personal brand, they phrase it as like this really big project that you have to do in order to like stamp your digital presence. I see it as everybody already has a personal brand. If you've ever worked with anybody, if you've ever worked on a project, if you've been in school, you already have a brand because that's your reputation. The only thing that I would say you can do to improve that personal brand is just to make it public because you cannot get into the industry, you cannot land a position if people don't know who you are. So the way that I went about doing that was just posting one time a week on LinkedIn. Not a huge lift, nothing crazy. I'm not posting 400 times a day on Instagram. I'm not chasing down trends or trying to beat the algorithm. I'm just putting my work at the forefront and putting it out there publicly so people can understand what it is that I can do and they can decide if that means that I will be a good addition to their team. So some of the first steps I would say to craft a personal brand would just be to talk about what it is that you're interested in. So your first post can literally be like an introduction post. My name is Sherry Reed. I'm an energy efficiency expert interested in building building decarbonization strategies. I have my BPI certification. I've worked on XYZ project, and these are my 3 insights. And then you put your insights there, follow me for more. And you can publish that as a really great first intro post. And over time, you begin building a reputation where now people are interested in what you have to say, and people will start bringing opportunities to you. That was honestly one of the biggest game changers for me because now it took me from the position of applying and praying that someone would call me back to having recruiters message me directly saying, "Hey, Sherry, we saw this role that we think you would be a good fit for. Can you hop on a screening call?" And so that was really important to me because I didn't like the energy that I was in when I was just applying to jobs and getting rejected. I talked a little bit before about how it kind of reflected on my self-worth a little bit. And I found that I was able to call my power back by putting out what I wanted to see and putting out the type of role, like putting out information that was relevant to the type of roles that I wanted to attract. So that would be my advice for anyone who is facing similar ecosystem barriers. If you don't have relevant professional experience or a college degree, I would say identify your strengths and see if you can get a certification to prove that strength. Increase your certifications or your skills. If you really are starting from ground zero, you don't think you have anything transferable, which I would debate that. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit in the breakout rooms. But I would say increase your skill set to match those that are in demand. And then I would say, in order to make sure opportunities are coming to you, make sure that you're working in public and publishing your work. So that way, recruiters, employers can see the value that you are bringing, even if you come from a non-traditional background. And if you can go to the next slide, please. These are some resources that were very, very helpful for me in my journey. So I mentioned a few of these already. Addressing mindset, your spirituality, addressing your limiting beliefs. I would highly, highly recommend Atsu Metzli. Alexandra Peak is the founder of that company. She's also a close friend of mine, and she's amazing with walking through guided meditations and helping you understand where the blocks are that you're coming up against emotionally, spiritually, that are perhaps limiting you from posting publicly or from going after roles that you think might be too far out of your reach. 16 Personalities and the VIA Institute on Character were really helpful resources for me in understanding what strengths I had and what I could contribute to the climate crisis. That helped me. 16 Personalities is really great because they break down like your characteristics into like personality archetypes. So if that's something that might be helpful for you, I would encourage that. The strengths assessment is more about pulling out personality traits specifically that you're good at. So one of my top personality traits that it said, for example, is curiosity. And so that is really helpful, right? And identify and helping with sustainability, because you can start seeing where maybe gaps are coming up in program initiatives, or you can get curious about, why have we done things this way and what's been the impact. Building a personal brand, Courtney Johnson, I would follow her on all platforms. Her work has been really revolutionary for me in terms of helping me figure out how to work publicly. And then if we're getting into more like hard skills, Green Training USA is the organization that helped me complete my BPI certification. They also do LEAD and WELL AP, which are also in-demand certifications. So again, I would check to see what aligns with your interest. I never recommend just getting a stack of certifications. I say make sure that it aligns with you, because when you're actually working in your dream role, you're going to be working in a role that actually brings you joy and excitement and curiosity. So you don't want to get a bunch of certifications just for the sake of it. They're also expensive. So you want to invest in the things that are actually going to bring you joy as well as income. And then the Center for Sustainability and Excellence is where I did my GRI certification. Though that was not in alignment for me, they had an excellent program structure, and I did learn a lot. The Green Jobs Board is a great place to start with looking for positions. I found that they highlight positions that are not often blasted everywhere. So they also have a really great networking aspect as well. So that way you can get familiar with the people that are hiring at these companies and have another shot at understanding the company culture to make sure the role is actually going to be aligned with you. And then some of the publications that I think may be helpful for anyone who's looking to get into climate. The LinkedIn Global Green Skills Report was just published. That's really helpful for you to understand where the industry is going, what skills are in demand. And so you can objectively look at where the demand is going to be and hold that up next to your personal list of strengths to see where you might be interested in expanding your skill set or acquiring a new skill set. Women of Color Collective and Sustainability is a LinkedIn group. They are invite only, but it's specifically for women of color and non-gender conforming folks that are looking to break into the industry. These groups of people, we often face much higher barriers to entry. So this group is really, really fantastic for providing a support network and also sharing positions that are open. So if that's something you're interested in, DM me. I'm happy to invite you to that group. Black Girl Environmentalist is also another job board that is meant for women of color. They offer fellowships and a community hub. Intersectional Environmentalist is a great resource for everyone looking to get into climate work. They show the intersection of how climate can disproportionately affect different groups, and they provide a great resource hub so that way you can understand the intersections of the climate crisis. So no matter what aspect of work you go into, they have something for you to make sure that you're considering the problems from a holistic perspective. And lastly, I also highly recommend the Open Door Climate community. They do a lot of the things that we're doing here with Work on Climate. They have a list of practitioners that are working in the industry. I myself am listed there, and all of the practitioners there are open and willing and want to talk to you about how to get into the industry. Everyone's very excited to share their journey and maybe give you even specific advice on how your path can lead to a climate position. And I hope I can see you all in the breakout rooms. If you want to follow up with me after this is my LinkedIn link, linkedin.com/SherryDReed. You can also find me on my website at sherrydeneen.com. Thank you again for all your time today, and I really, really appreciate this space.
Amazing, Sherry. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's time for questions. So let's see if we have any questions from the audience. Please go ahead. This is your time. So you can raise the hands from the emoji option. Okay. Okay. So, so moving ahead. So just, Sherry, we would like to, ask you, like, did hiring managers in your case, like, expect from you to have a climate experience? Like, let's say the first job that you landed, did they ask you, like, if you have some relevant experience or not? If you can put some light on it. Sorry, you're on a mute.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you about that. Absolutely. That's a great question. So the first role that I landed in climate was actually a result of being referred to a company. So though I did not have a network going into it, because I was open and curious about a lot of the different sectors that were available, I was able to meet a woman through a webinar. Her name is Bomi Jung. I highly encourage everyone here to follow her on LinkedIn. But she introduced me to this company where I found my first position. The interview, they did ask about my climate experience, and they saw on my resume that I did not have climate experience. But during that during that interview, I made a big point of emphasizing my project management experience, which is what the role called for. And I was able to make a solid case for demonstrating how my management experience, even though it was in a different industry, how it translated to the work that I was going to be doing at their company. So I would say if you don't have relevant experience, actually, this kind of goes whether you have relevant experience or not, but you should really understand the companies that you're applying to. You should understand their mission. You should understand their approach. You should understand their culture. And you can do this by talking to people that are already working at the company. So before I started this job, I found a few people online that had worked at that company, and I let them know that I had applied, and I talked to them about what their company was like. So that way, when the interview came up, I was able to speak directly to those things and make the case and show that even though I didn't have a climate background, my experience did prepare me to work in this role.
Okay, amazing. So I have a few more questions. It will be quite exciting for our audience. So the next one is like, I would like to know, so the real experience. So how did you like navigate your first year in the climate job? Because it was new. So we would like to know how you adjusted yourself and apply the non-climate experience to the new products that were exposed to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. In the first position that I held, I was a consultant. And my first role, I did not have a very hard adjustment period. I think because of the nature of the work, a lot of it was very similar in the sense that I was using the same skills that I had used at the salon. So I used a lot of like negotiation skills. I used a lot of advocacy skills. I used a lot of project management skills, so instead of talking to like clients and hairstylists, I was talking to building owners and contractors. And I would say probably the biggest experience, or rather the biggest challenge in that, was just making sure I understood the language. I think that was probably the most jarring thing because the actual day-to-day was not difficult for me. It was understanding the industry terms. It was understanding um, maybe yeah, like the terminology. And that's actually what led me to get the building certification, is because I realized even though I could do the job, right? Like I had the skill set, I was still missing that piece of the terminology. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to understand more about the building science side of it. And my employer actually was able to pay for that, which is something I would also recommend, like having your employer help cover the cost of the certifications. I would say the biggest challenge for me was actually in the second role. that I landed because I was in more of a technical role. I was working as an inspector for commercial energy projects. So at that point, I had to learn a whole new skill set. I had to learn how to actually tune a boiler. I had to learn how heat pumps are installed. I had to learn a lot more technical aspects. So even though I had the building certification, which helped me land that second job, I needed to find a mentor at the company to help me actually understand the more technical pieces of it. So I would say, be open, be curious, be willing to connect with new people because that's who's going to be your ally once you actually are in the role and you're actually working through this new area because there's a lot to adjust to.
Okay, Sherry, thank you so much for the presentation and also allowing us to learn from your journey. And yes, we'll have a breakup room and we can have we can ask as many questions we want. So moving ahead to our next speaker, who is Catalina Valenzuela, and joining us from Miami, and she's CEO of Innovus Consulting, specializing in designing and implementing capacity building solutions for organizations in the USA and Latin America. So yeah, let's welcome her.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, or good afternoon, and good night. I'm Catalina Valenzuela. I'm the CEO of Innovus Consulting. I'm a Gen X, and nothing derails the plans than having young children and arriving to a new country. In 2010, I arrived in the US and I became a man by default. I didn't plan not to be able to work, but I didn't de-risk my plan enough. I didn't have any US qualifications. My qualifications are Colombian and British. I didn't have a network, and also I have a very, very busy partner. So it was kind of my professional plans in 2010, when I was in my 40s, were derailed, to say the least. Professional women and migrant professional women confront many barriers, including mental health issues as isolation, language issues, and as well high qualifications or high qualifications unknown equivalent in the country they migrate. That was my situation, and in 2010, I started my own business as part of my own reflection of starting to walk the talk of women economic empowerment, which has been my talk since I remember. In 2010, there was a pandemic. We all or most of us reassessed what we wanted in life. And I wanted to start my own business and become a businesswoman. And I wanted to work doing some consulting. I have already worked as a self-employed person with a friend, helping him establish some training for his new business, and I did that. And I was very involved in training and helping organizations with small gigs, design and implement training. I'm a teacher, and that was and I'll tell you later, that was my second career change, sorry. And then in 2022, I really decided that I wanted to work more in projects involving women, and women like me, professional women that were kind of in the sphere of building their own businesses or trying to build their own businesses. So I saw on LinkedIn an EIT Climate KIC call. EIT Climate KIC is a European-backed innovation lab looking into how entrepreneurship can provide solutions for climate change. I wrote a very passionate cover letter for this gig. I just kind of light a candle and say, well, this is the universe that will bring me this job. I didn't want to work particularly in climate change. I wanted to work with new businesses in mainstream gender. I wanted to bring this gender lens to new businesses, and I thought this is a good opportunity. And it was fascinating. It was a new world. It was the world of startups, business accelerators. In the previous life, I was a blogger talking about digital transformation and talking about the role of women in the digital world. And now here I am talking about business accelerators, working on climate building and helping build businesses around climate action, and really trying to give a gender lens to all of this. Climate change, as you may know, affects more women than men. Is expected, the UN expects that 70 million people will migrate either internally or internationally due to climate change, and it affects more. 3/4 of those will be women taking care of children. But although that data is very daunting, I also think and believe that climate action has as well a women face. And is it because we're having this conversation? Is it because I see more and more women involved in this? And is it because as well as my work with these 50 startups during 2 years that we talk about what is a gender lens and why do I need to involve women? And is it gender lens only women in my board, or is it gender lens only women in my C-level, my executive level, or is it just because I employ lots of women, or I want to employ lots of women, or is it because I need to kind of build the communication and marketing strategy towards women? Women, regardless of their economic level, power, their economic power, regardless of their academic background, regardless of the cultural background or country, make the 90% of the purchase decisions in households. So not taking a gender lens when you're building a business and thinking about women in a very differentiated way as you think about men, or trying to be gender neutral, is not a good business pursuit. And so I started having those conversations and building a capacity training for these startups. And one thing led to the other one. And last year I worked with Acción, which is a very big not-for-profit and venture fund that works at the intersection of anything that helps financial inclusion, and particularly women financial inclusion. And we came to realize that fintech, those very kind of highly digital financial services, they were trying to be neutral, gender neutral, and there's nothing more discouraging or more unsavvy business-wise than the neutrality. There's no neutrality as there's no objectivity. And we came to realize that there's a business case for putting a gender lens on data and on fintech when they are building and constructing new services. So Acción invited me to help them design a program, a capacity building program for the fintechs that they were planning to invest or they were investing, to help them build new financial services and products for women. And in fact, for women, because we have a different professional cycle, as you see from mine, and as you see from Sherry, and as you will see from my colleagues, the rest of my colleagues from this panel. So I came to this journey, having changed my career 3 times. I used to be an economist by training, and I trained back in Colombia with a BA in economics, and I trained at the prestigious London School of Economics in political economy, and I work in my government as a member of the staff of one of the ministers. And then I went to Oxford, and because my partner got a scholarship to do his PhD, and then there I decided, it was September 11, yes, long time ago, 2001, and the war was ending. Latin America was having a turmoil as usual, and I decided that I didn't want to be an economist anymore. I didn't want to work on that world. I didn't want to work in the city, and there was a big call in the UK for people like me to become teachers, and I became a teacher. And I taught in an inner city school in London, French and Spanish, for 4 years. And this is my 7 minutes. So I will go through the barriers. Thank you, team. Can we move through the barriers? So this is my career. I've been moving from economist to teacher to business owner, always with this gender lens in time. And I just want to go very fast on the ecosystem barriers. There's a lot of talk about traditional masculinized sectors, energy, transportation, tech, and the world. And if you see the data on any sector, all of them are led by men. All of them have more men than women in any of their echelons. We as women are more subject to unconscious bias in recruiting, hiring, promotions, etc., etc. And there's the legacy of the digital revolution that happened that also failed women. As you may remember, before the pandemic, we were all talking about digital transformation, and now we're talking about climate. And I see climate as an opportunity to build a better world and to build a more profitable business. I build on what my previous colleague said, a mindset of my current strategies, a mindset that no sector is beyond my capabilities and my knowledge. So with curiosity, I start kind of building on the lingo of climate change and working in a few other projects in the sphere of climate change and women economic empowerment. I always partner when I'm doing new business proposals with very highly subject matter experts. And as you may gather from now, I'm a lifelong learner. So I'm always learning the lingo, getting new certifications, having these kind of opportunities to speak with other people. I have already linked and connect with all the resources that my colleagues are sharing here. And I'm very happy to be here. So go for it. Don't allow no having qualifications, your age, your gender, your beliefs, not to allow you to build a career in climate. Thank you very much.
Okay, so here are the resources that we will definitely send to our audience. And thank you so much, Catalina. It was really wonderful to hear your story. So let's see if anyone from the audience has any questions. Please raise your hand. Okay, and still you'll have your breakout room, so you can have a chit chat over there. Okay, so coming up next, we have Sobia Rehan from Delhi, India. She is an architect with 3 years of experience, holding a master degree in building services. She has conducted impactful research on passive daylight technology, focusing on the adoption of solar energy methods. So yeah, let's welcome her, Sobia.
Hello, everyone. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Hannah, for giving me this opportunity. I am not as far as my colleagues here, these bright, beautiful women here, but I would love to discuss about my trip towards climate journey. So, well, I'm from Delhi, India, and I am quite a newbie with only 3 years of experience in architectural design, and I have a master's degree in building services. So basically, I worked with innovation with the intention of using solar panels, solar energy, and passive daylight strategies in my research. And through these spaces, I'm very much involved with the climate part of the architectural industry. Now, basically, I'll be sharing with you how I navigated through my barriers and within the architecture industries and how I adopted a research-driven mindset, which has basically changed my journey towards sustainable design. So when I had began my career as an architect, as a fresh architect, I was part of a convention center, which is considered to be the largest in India and third largest in the world. I'm very proud of that convention center since it was my baby. But the thing that I noticed in that was how they had used basic passive situations, strategies into architectural design by not using high financially materials that would affect the overall cost of the structure in making a sustainable building. I think that was my first introduction to sustainability. And when I had landed in my master's program in building services, the idea was just to study the services that are involved in a structure as an architectural terms. But there I actually fell in love with sustainability, and there I had applied the principles of solar energy into daylight strategies and how we can use such principles into building a sustainable architecture. But I think one of the main revelations was when I had graduated from my master's and I had gone back again to a simple architectural firm where we just did a basic architectural design of releasing drawings and constructing structures without realizing how much carbon emission the architecture industry actually releases. And it was then I realized that this is not what I want to do. I want to be a part of the climate change. One of the most moment of my epiphany was when I had read a great author, Naomi Klein, her book. And she had mentioned in that book about a story of how she would read to her 2-year-old about moose. And at that time, she realized that how her son would never see a moose since they were going extinct in Canada. As a new mom, I realized the same thing, that maybe the future generation, that my future generation will not be able to live on the planet if we keep going the way we are going. And this was one of the main motivations for me to go back to my roots of climate change. Can we move the slide? So one of the things that I found was, as Sherry had said, when I started applying for sustainable jobs, and I realized that there was a lot of hindrance in that. First of all, even with an architectural background and experience, I had to go through several training and certifications to reach. So one of them was the lead. But the issue arose was, since I belong to another country and not US, I had to do two certifications to be considered within my own country as well as internationally. So this was a bigger issue for me. And these certifications are not cheap. So for people entering into this field, it's one of the biggest issues that we see. Again, work-life balance challenges. This, again, as a new mom, a lot of people who are mothers might understand leaving your kid in daycare and going to work does become very difficult, especially if you're planning to change your careers and enter into a new field. I was privileged enough to have support of family and friends, but not everyone is as privileged as me. The third point is that how architecture, especially a majority of the architectural firms, just focus on sustainability as a trend, just to have it and show it to the world that, oh, how sustainable their building are. But they don't really care if their building does in the end reveal a sustainability. They get the tag from LEED and that's it. So I think one of the major things to focus is on this. And currently, I am working towards it. So this is basically for not just women, but anyone who prefers to have a flexible work arrangement around their families, around their side hustles, something towards a climate change and research. So while this point hits me hard, because research was something where I realized a lot of things that are currently happening towards sustainability is, well, not really beneficial. For example, we always talk about solar panels as a great energy resource. But currently, we have too many disposable solar panels that we don't know what to do. And this is creating plastic waste, this is creating lithium waste, this is creating a lot of waste, which again affects us. EV, the current trend of having electrical vehicles, and we are not focusing on the long term, but only on the short term. At the end, again, we don't know how to dispose those batteries, and it's causing electronic waste. So researching about the whole life cycle assessment of a structure is more important than just focusing on what works presently. It looks very fancy, it looks very beautiful and life-changing, but if you would see the end product, it's not, it's leading to a disaster. So this is a very important aspect. The third thing that helped me was connecting with people. Was the most difficult part of the whole thing, since I am an introvert and meeting people, it's very difficult for me. But it really helped me by connecting with people who have the same passion and same experiences as me. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad for this opportunity, because I get to meet similar people who have the same ideas and same plans like me. So these things have been really helpful. I have been part of several conferences where I've presented my research papers. And one of the best things that happened was I was part of an internship for a company, a small startup called Planet Sense. And it's the founder, Leslie. She has created a marketplace, a sustainable marketplace in place of Amazon. And I worked with her for about 3 months, and it was a wonderful experience. Her passion and the way she's going, it's wonderful. I realized a lot of things while working under her. So internships were amazing. Currently, I'm part of an internship in my country where I do work with clean drives and planting trees. It's a small contribution from my part, which has helped me grow around similar people. Next, please. Yes, these are the few of the resources that I have discussed. Main parts are like the most revolutionary thing, as I mentioned, is Naomi Klein, since she is, for me, a life-changing aspect. The others is job boards, so green and climate jobs, but you can check out Planet Sense also. I was part of a competition in India, solar decathlon competition. Please check out. They have wonderful design for architecture and for small building structures, being done financially and economically well. Yeah, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with people who have similar ideas and similar plans and collaborate with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. It was a really inspiring story, and I think every mom can relate with your story. I think that for the questions, let's wait for the breakout room, and then we can have it. So yeah, thank you so much, and let's move on
Thank
to
you.
our next speaker. The final one, and who is Podine Van Styrum, who is the founder of Sustainability Spot, who leverages her expertise in neuroscience and behavioral science to help sustainability leaders boost employee engagement. So she joins us from Amsterdam. So let's welcome her.
Thank you a lot, Neha. Thanks. And hi to everybody that's still here. I'm based in Amsterdam, so it's a good evening from here. And yeah, I'll just start with a short introduction. My name is Bodine van Stierum. I am the founder of Sustainability Spot, and my work focuses on helping sustainability leaders increase employee engagement around sustainability. But it has been a journey to where I am now, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be in this call. So before starting my own company, I worked 3 years as an applied behavioral scientist. And within that role, I primarily focused on creating strategies to transition from a current to a desired behavior. So that could be campaigns for the Dutch government, or it could be campaigns for commercial clients. And it started itching a bit that I didn't want to work primarily on commercial clients and really wanted to focus on sustainability. I felt that I was not making a big of enough impact, and I started a quest to speak with as much sustainability professionals as I could reach out to via LinkedIn as possible. And I eventually chatted with more than 80 sustainability managers to really understand what they're bumping into. I just felt if they can do their work more easily without barriers, they can also have a bigger impact within the organizations that they work. So that's where I started. And the challenge that I found within more than 70% of the managers I talked to is that engaging employees and engaging everybody in the story, often a new narrative within the company, and get everybody on board with sustainability. We are very habitual people, the habitual beings. So we're very used to working in a certain way. And within Sustainability Spot, we really try to find gaps in engagement through research within companies and to create effective behavioral interventions to actually increase motivation, increase capability of showing certain sustainable behaviors, but also giving people the actual opportunity. It's not only about motivating people, it's also about letting people actually show certain behaviors. So that can be time or a social opportunity. And aside from that, I love public speaking. So talking about behavior change and sustainability. And that's obviously very needed and handy as a founder. So I've been working full-time as an entrepreneur now for a year. My dad is still in the call and he's an entrepreneur too. So he inspired me to do this. You can go to the next slide, please. So ecosystem barriers, when I was working for the advertising agency, I felt that I maybe didn't have the right knowledge to make a shift to working in impact, working in climate. So I felt a bit hesitant if I could really contribute. So that was a barrier for me. And also that it felt just too big of a leap. Like, what are you going to do? And I also wanted it to be my own company. So I started working on that, crafting that to also really solving a problem that needs a solution, because often startups are created, they have a solution to a problem that doesn't really need that much solving. And my proven strategies have been talking to a lot of people that work in climate, work in sustainability. At first, I didn't really understand what sustainability managers do. So also just crafting my knowledge, crafting my perspective of what sustainability professionals do to really understand where I can fit in and to get to know the space. And I think Sherry touched really nicely on that, that you can, it has to be also within your power and within the strengths you have. I also really don't like reporting, so that's not what I want to learn more about, for example. But find a topic that you find interesting. And for me, that is everything on the intersection of behavior change and sustainability. We can all keep learning. And for example, I also did a public speaking course to really learn how to engage groups because I love motivating people to give sustainability a seat at the table, because that's what's needed. And the last slide for me, some educational resources. For me, it all started, well, not all started, but a year ago, I did a Cambridge program, which is called Circular Economy and Sustainability Strategies, that gave me a good sort of baseline knowledge about sustainability strategies that I still use now in my work and in my startup. I added a scientific paper that I find really interesting about culture shifts for pro-environmental behavior change. You can use it within companies, because I also feel that we really need change from within. We need internal activists, because within the role you already have, if you're a marketer, if you're sales, if you're working in supply chain, within that role, you can also have impact. I also don't feel you have to, everybody has to quit their jobs, but we can also change companies from within. The B Corp movement, I'm also a B Corp consultant, so I help companies to gain the B Corp certification, and I added a link to that, a few programs they have, and B Corp is a movement for companies that can join the movement, and it's all based on business being a force for good. So how can we have business models that can actually create an impact, not only create money? Also, a lot of free sustainability courses on Coursera, so you can find that. I only found some job boards that are active here in the Netherlands, so that's maybe not very useful for this community. So some publications, the Impact Hub, I think is a really cool place. It's a hub where there's co-working spaces for people that work in impact. They often host events. There is one in New York. There is one here in Amsterdam. So yeah, wherever you are in the world, you can look up an impact hub and see if there's events going on there. The School of Moral Ambition, it's actually started by a Dutch historian called Rutger Bregman, and he really feels that yeah, we have the power to devote our career to the greatest challenges of our times, and that we also have to really make sure the talent, so also the talent that is working in big corporates, that maybe not do as much impact or maybe even harm the planet, have to move towards devoting their time to tackling the greatest challenges of our time. So you can look into the School of Moral Ambition. They actually also create circles where people can come together and learn how you would want to see your career towards impact. Yeah, it's pretty extensive, so maybe just look it up and learn from the internet. I added 2 podcasts, Reinventing Capitalism and The Joy Report, great podcast. And also because I love entrepreneurship, I added The Green Times. It's a media platform on impact entrepreneurship, really broadcasting stories about people that are already doing the work in all different fields, from food to venture capital. So yeah, look it up. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and thanks to the Work on Climate team for hosting this.
Thank you, Bodine. Thank you so much for sharing all those insightful strategies with our attendees. And so now it's the time for thanking all the speakers. Thank you so much for lighting up on your experiences and the challenges. I think it's really empowering everyone who is over here. And I hope the audience is also energized to spend some time with the speakers now in the breakout room and converse directly about the topics that interest them the most. So now what we are going to do is we will now open 4 breakout rooms, and it will be named after each speaker, and the audience will be able to freely move between the rooms. So each speaker will moderate their own room, and if you have any questions, please use the raise hand emoji and the speaker will call you out. And then we will also have a 5th room open for people who are interested in networking with each other, and it will be called just want to chat room. And the main room will stay open for anybody who has any questions about the WOCI team, Work on Climate team, or any kind of technical assistance if they need. So we will bring everybody back after 20 minutes for the wrap up and to share some impressions and takeaway from the conversations in the room. So we are ready? You can see the breakout room option at the bottom, and you just choose the room that you want to. You can see the speaker's name. And if you want to do networking, so just hop onto the 5th room. If any problem, any issue, or if you want to know about Work on Climate, please stay at the main page, main home, like the main room. I hope everyone is back. So welcome back. Let me check. Yeah, probably everyone is back. So I hope everybody had great time to ask a persistent question that they had from our guest. So we would like to definitely, we would love to hear from the audience about the conversation that they had, or any new strategies that you learned today, or something that you would want to implement in your own career transition. So please raise your hands if you have any thoughts, anything that you want to share, whatever from this today's conversation. So please raise your hands and go ahead. Okay, anyone has any questions? So this is your time. So go ahead. We still have few minutes left and you can utilize the time. I know that maybe some of you might be talking and the breakout room must have been disconnected. So you still have all the links and the LinkedIn details and everything. So you can catch up with the speakers anytime you want and you can discuss whatever you want. So if there are no more questions right now, we would definitely, would also appreciate if you could fill out the event survey form that you can see in the chat box. And it will only take a couple of minutes, but it will be really greatly helpful for us to make, such kind of events even much better. So please, I will just wait for a minute for if you want to, go ahead, or you also have it in your, when we send the presentation to you, you will find the link, all the links over there as well. So yeah, so thank you everyone who helped us to make this great event happen. And I wish good luck to everyone in this climate journey. Thank you so much, everybody joining and the speakers, attendees, and everybody. It was an awesome event. Thank you.